Have you ever looked around and thought, why do some people succeed so easily, while others struggle their whole life? It's not luck. It's not money. It's not connections. It's the way they think. Yes, success starts in the mind. If you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever doubted yourself, or wondered why your dreams seem so far away, this book will flip the switch inside you. Because the magic of thinking success doesn't just teach you how to think bigger, it teaches you how to think like someone who was born to win. And once you learn that, life will never be the same again. David J. Schwartz Jr. wasn't just a teacher. He was a life transformer. A professor at Georgia State University and a world-renowned motivational speaker, David became famous for his groundbreaking book, The Magic of Thinking Big. But in The Magic of Thinking Success, he goes even deeper. This book is a step-by-step blueprint for rewiring your mind, building unstoppable confidence, and developing the habits that create lasting success. It's not just theory. It's a practical guide backed by decades of research and thousands of personal stories. David believed that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things, and this book proves it. Imagine you're sitting alone, late at night, scrolling through your phone, feeling that heavy weight of not enough, not successful enough, not confident enough, not lucky enough. This is where David J. Schwartz Jr. begins your journey. Not with business strategies or magic tricks, but with a question. What if the only thing holding you back was the way you think? In this book, David shows us that every single successful person you admire started with one simple shift. They began thinking like winners. Not hoping, not wishing, but thinking with full belief. He explains that success isn't about IQ, talent, or being born rich. It's about developing what he calls success thinking. It means you stop focusing on what you don't have and start focusing on what's possible. Success thinkers see opportunities where others see obstacles. They believe in themselves even when no one else does. And they take action, even when they're scared. One powerful story David shares is of a young man who wanted to be a manager but had no college degree. Everyone told him it was impossible, but he kept telling himself, "I am management material." He started dressing better, speaking with more confidence, and learning whatever he could. Within a year, he was promoted, not because of luck, but because he changed the way he saw himself. That's the heart of this book. Your outer world is shaped by your inner world. David reminds us that the most successful people think positively, act boldly, and never let fear stop them. But they weren't born that way. They trained themselves to think that way, step by step. And so can you. He breaks down how to catch negative thoughts, how to flip them into power thoughts, and how to turn those thoughts into action. This is where the real magic begins, not in wishing for a better life, but in thinking in a way that demands one. So how do you actually start thinking successfully? David Schwartz makes it clear. Thinking success isn't just a feeling, it's a decision. Har din, har waqt, you get to choose how you think. और इस किताब का पहला major lesson यही है. Stop selling yourself short. Most people, without even realizing it, are their own worst enemies. They walk around with this quiet, deadly voice inside their head that says, "I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'll probably fail." And that voice kills more dreams than failure ever could. David Katahane. Start noticing those thoughts. Become aware. Because every time you tell yourself, "I can't," your mind shuts down. But when you say, "Let me figure this out," your brain lights up. He shares this amazing story of a small-town woman who always dreamed of opening her own dress shop. But for years she'd say, "I'm not a businesswoman. I'm just a mother." She had ideas, passion, even a tiny bit of savings, but no confidence. Then one day, after reading this concept, she decided to act like a successful businesswoman. She began studying successful entrepreneurs, dressing more professionally, networking with shop owners, and visualizing her dream every single day. Within 6 months, she opened her first boutique, and it became a local success. David calls this the act the part technique. When you start acting like the person you want to become, your brain and habits follow. It's not fake, it's training. Success doesn't wait for you to feel ready. You have to step into that identity before the results show up. और यही बात इतनी powerful है. You don't have to wait for permission. David reminds us, most of us are waiting for the right time, waiting for the fear to go away, waiting for someone to believe in us. But thinking success means, I believe in me. Now. You must be the first one to believe in your dream, even when no one else does. Because when you do, the world slowly starts to believe with you. The book also explains the power of self-affirmation. David suggests creating a mental image of yourself as a success and replaying it in your mind like a movie. Visualize it so clearly that your brain starts to accept it as real. This isn't just positive thinking, it's mental training. Just like athletes visualize winning before the game, you visualize your goals before life gives them to you. The magic happens when your thoughts, actions, and identity all align toward success. Thinking success means constantly feeding your mind with uplifting, forward-moving thoughts and rejecting the noise of doubt. Because at the end of the day, your mind can either be your prison or your power. You decide. Confidence. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build piece by piece every single day. David J. Schwartz says one of the biggest blocks to success is this quiet fear people carry. The fear of looking stupid. The fear of failing. The fear of what will people say. And the sad part is, most people don't even try. Not because they're not capable, but because they don't trust themselves enough to take the first step. That's why this part of the book hits so hard. David teaches you how to manufacture confidence, even when you feel like you have none. He says confidence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But here's the trick. Confidence doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror. It comes from doing small, courageous things, over and over. He tells a beautiful story of a man who was terrified of public speaking. Every time he stood in front of a crowd, his knees shook, his throat dried up, and his mind went blank. But deep inside, he had something to say. So David gave him a challenge. Every week, speak to just one small group. Nothing big, no pressure, just practice. First it was 5 people, then 10, then 20. Slowly his fear started to melt, and his confidence grew. Today that same man speaks on national stages. That's the secret. You don't need to erase fear. You need to act while carrying it. Schwartz calls this the action cure to fear. He says, fear disappears when you face it. And he's right. When you sit and overthink, fear grows. When you move, even a little, fear shrinks. That's why successful people aren't fearless. They're action takers. They don't let fear control their lives. They push forward anyway. David also teaches that the way you carry yourself sends messages to your brain. Walk like a winner, talk like a winner, sit like someone who belongs in the room. When your body language says, I believe in myself, your mind starts to believe it too. He even talks about the power of dressing well, not for vanity, but because how you dress changes how you feel. When you look good, you feel stronger. When you feel stronger, you act bolder. Every little thing you do is shaping your inner world. That's why David encourages what he calls environmental upgrades. Surround yourself with people who lift you, not drain you. Choose uplifting books, inspiring stories, clean spaces, encouraging friends. Because your environment is always whispering something into your ear, make sure it's saying, you can do this. At its heart, this chapter is about remembering that you have more inside you than you've ever allowed yourself to believe. Your potential is massive, but your belief in it has to grow before anything else does. And that belief comes from doing small, hard things consistently, even when it's uncomfortable. That's how confidence is born. One of the most powerful ideas David J. Schwartz shares is this: you are who you think you are. That may sound simple, but it's life-changing once you truly understand it. Every single day, we are walking around acting out the story we've told ourselves about ourselves. If your inner story says, I'm average, I can't do big things, then you will live a small, average life, no matter how much talent you have. But if your inner story says, I am capable, I am worthy, I am built for success, then Your actions, decisions, and opportunities start to align with that belief. David calls this the self-image principle, and it's the foundation of thinking success. The truth is, your brain doesn't argue with the identity you give it. If you tell yourself you're bad at business, your brain will find evidence to prove it. If you tell yourself you're a natural leader, your brain will look for ways to make it true. That's why Schwartz pushes you to upgrade your mental self-portrait. He shares the story of a young salesman who was failing miserably, not because he didn't know how to sell, but because deep down he thought of himself as a rookie who didn't deserve big clients. David challenged him to start thinking like the best salesman in the company, imagining how that person would dress, talk, walk, negotiate, and follow up. Within months, his sales doubled. Nothing magical happened, except a shift in self-image. David also explains how self-image is shaped by our surroundings. If you hang around people who constantly complain, criticize, and play small, you start to shrink without realizing it. But if you put yourself in an environment where big thinking is normal, where people encourage you, challenge you, and believe in you, your self-image expands. This is why Schwartz says you must be ruthless about protecting your mental climate. Don't let negative voices rent space in your head. Feed your mind with positive input. Uplifting books, inspiring podcasts, empowering mentors. He even gives practical exercises to reprogram your self-image, like keeping a victory log where you write down daily wins, no matter how small. Over time, these wins build a library of proof that you are capable. The point is simple. You can't outperform the way you see yourself. If you want a bigger life, you must first build a bigger belief in who you are. And once your self-image expands, something magical happens. Your courage grows, your actions multiply, and the world begins to treat you differently. People respect confidence, they're drawn to it, and they trust it. Your opportunities increase, not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. This isn't wishful thinking. It's science. The story you tell yourself becomes the reality you live in. And David's message is crystal clear. Make that story a great one. Let's talk about goals. Big goals. The kind that scare you a little, excite you a lot, and pull you out of bed in the morning with fire in your belly. David J. Schwartz believed that success isn't something that just happens. It's something you aim for, deliberately, clearly, and boldly. In The Magic of Thinking Success, he explains that most people live life without clear goals. They drift, they react, they survive, but they don't thrive. Why? Because they haven't taken the time to define what success even looks like for them. David teaches that having a specific, meaningful goal is like setting your mental GPS. Without it, you're just wandering. But with it, your thoughts, energy, and decisions all start pointing in one powerful direction. He tells the story of a factory worker who spent 20 years in the same job, always saying, "One day I'll do something big." But one day never came, because he never sat down to define what big looked like. One day, after hearing David speak, the man finally wrote down his dream, to open his own small repair shop. That simple act, putting pen to paper, changed everything. Suddenly, he wasn't just dreaming. He was planning. He started saving, learning, and preparing. Within 2 years, he quit his job and opened his shop. It wasn't easy, but it was real. That's the power of a clear goal. David explains that the mind works best when it's chasing something. Without a goal, the mind gets lazy. But with a goal, even a scary one, it becomes focused, creative, and resilient. He encourages readers to set goals that are just beyond their comfort zone. Not so huge they seem impossible, but big enough to stretch you. He calls this goal stretching, and it's where growth happens. But here's the kicker. Goals must be backed by belief. You can't just write them down and hope. You have to believe they're possible. That belief becomes the fuel for your action. David suggests visualizing your goals daily. Picture them in full detail. See yourself living that new life, feeling the emotions, celebrating the wins. This mental rehearsal wires your brain for achievement. He also advises breaking goals into small, bite-sized steps. When the goal feels overwhelming, it's easy to quit. But when you break it down, save $100 this week, make 3 calls today, read 1 chapter tonight, it becomes doable. Small wins build momentum. Momentum builds confidence, and confidence builds success. David even talks about the power of writing goals down and reviewing them daily. It's like reminding your brain, this is what we're working toward. This is what matters. And over time, your brain starts solving problems, spotting opportunities, and making decisions that align with that goal. You start living with intention. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You become a person on a mission. At the end of this chapter, the message is clear. Don't let life push you around. Don't wait for permission. Choose a goal. Commit to it. Believe in it. And then start walking toward it, one small step at a time. Because the moment you get clear about what you want, the universe starts clearing a path to help you get there. Now let's talk about one of the most underrated secrets to success: how you treat people. David J. Schwartz Jr. says something powerful in this part of the book. People who think success treat others with warmth, respect, and belief. It might sound simple, but it's game-changing. Because no matter how smart, skilled, or ambitious you are, you can't climb alone. Real success is built through relationships. Strong, meaningful, uplifting relationships. And the way you think about others determines how they think about you. This chapter is all about mastering the art of people skills, not manipulation, but real, genuine connection. David says, big thinkers make others feel important. Think about that for a second. In a world where most people feel unseen, unheard, and undervalued, just making someone feel important can change everything. He shares a story about a young man working in sales who was struggling badly. He knew his product inside out, but people just didn't respond to him. One day, he changed one simple habit. Instead of jumping into sales pitches, he started asking people about themselves. He complimented their businesses, appreciated their time, and really listened. The result? His sales doubled in 3 months. Why? Because people do business with people they like, and people like people who make them feel good. David calls this the people-building habit. It's about training yourself to see the good in others, to praise effort, and to offer sincere encouragement. Not fake flattery, real appreciation. When you say things like, "You did a great job," or "I admire your creativity," or "Thank you for your time," it creates emotional deposits in that person's heart. And guess what? People remember that. They want to help you. They want to work with you. They trust you. David even breaks down the power of smiling, making eye contact, remembering names, and speaking with energy. These aren't soft skills. They're success weapons. The best leaders, CEOs, coaches, and influencers know how to lift people up, make them feel seen, and create a sense of connection. That's what opens doors. That's what builds loyalty. He also explains how thinking success means assuming the best in people. Most of us judge too quickly. We assume people won't be helpful, won't support us, or aren't worth our time. But when you change your mental lens, when you start seeing potential instead of problems, you attract better energy and stronger allies. This attitude becomes a magnet for opportunity. Another important point Schwartz makes is about gossip and criticism. He warns that small thinkers waste energy tearing others down. But big thinkers rise above that. They focus on solutions, not complaints. They speak hope, not hate. And because of that, they're trusted more, liked more, and remembered more. He even recommends building a positive speech habit, where you make it a daily goal to say something uplifting to at least 3 people. It sounds small, but it creates ripple effects. People will associate you with light, not darkness. At the heart of this lesson is one truth. The more people you help rise, the higher you go. And when you build people, you build your own success. Because in the end, success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how many lives you lift along the way. In the final stretch of The Magic of Thinking Success, David J. Schwartz Jr. drops one of the most emotional and empowering truths of all. Never underestimate the power of persistence. Because here's the thing. Everyone dreams, everyone wants success, but only a few keep going when it gets hard. And that's where the real difference is made. It's not the smartest, not the luckiest, not even the most talented people who succeed. It's the ones who refuse to quit. David calls this the stick-to-it spirit. A mental toughness that says, I may fall, but I will get back up every single time. He reminds us that every great success story is full of failure, struggle, and moments of doubt. But successful people don't see those moments as signs to stop. They see them as stepping stones to grow. He shares a powerful story of a woman who dreamed of becoming a writer. She was rejected over 30 times by publishers. 30 times. Most people would give up after 5. But not her. Every rejection made her rewrite, improve, and keep trying. Today, she's a best-selling author. Why? Not because her first draft was perfect, but because her determination was. That's what David wants us to understand. Persistence is magic. It turns failure into fuel. It transforms doubt into determination. It builds resilience that nothing can break. And here's what's even more inspiring. Persistence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, like a daily discipline. It starts with the decision to never give up on yourself, no matter how many times life says no. David also talks about how to handle setbacks. Instead of asking, why me? He says ask, what now? What can I learn from this? How can I grow? What can I try differently? This shift in thinking changes everything. Suddenly, problems aren't walls. They're puzzles. Challenges become teachers. And failure stops feeling like the end. It starts feeling like part of the journey. That's how successful thinkers operate. They don't expect a smooth road. They expect detours, delays, and detours. But they keep moving anyway. Schwartz even says that every time you push through something hard, you earn self-respect. And that self-respect is priceless. It builds inner power that no one can take away. Another key part of persistence, according to David, is momentum. When you're feeling stuck or unmotivated, don't wait to feel inspired. Just take one small action. One step, one phone call, one paragraph. Action leads to movement, and movement leads to more action. Before you know it, you've created momentum, and that's what breaks through walls. He also emphasizes rest, but not quitting. Taking a break doesn't mean failure. It means you're recharging for the next push. Successful people know when to pause, reflect, and reset. But they never stop showing up. David ends with a beautiful reminder. Your future isn't written yet. No matter where you're starting from, whether you're broke, scared, confused, or alone, you can rewrite your story. You can start thinking bigger, acting bolder, and living a life that once felt impossible. Because inside you, there is magic, the magic of thinking success. And once you unlock it, truly unlock it, there's no limit to what you can become.